I won the BBC public speaking competition in Hungary back when I was 14. Yet, I am still scared every time I have to give a presentation, whether that's for work, for studies, or just giving a pitch. I still get very shaky and anxious. However, that is only in the inside. In this video, I'll show you how to deliver a killer presentation every single time that leaves your audience impressed, no matter how you feel on the inside. And the truth is, the best presentations aren't really about the content or the slides. It's about how you engage with the audience and how you deliver that speech. So today I'll share my strategy on how not just to survive, but really shine during your next presentation. Tip number 1 is to start with a strong opening. First impressions matter. Usually your audience will forget most of what you talked about. So you have to hook your audience's attention from the very beginning with something compelling, whether that's a powerful story, a surprising fact, or a thought-provoking question. You have to be able to evoke a strong emotion in order to hold their attention. So the first 30 seconds is about exactly that. You set the tone for the presentation and you grab their attention. Evoke a strong emotion, as I said, something like happiness, anger, frustration, shock. These can be all emotions that can set the tone. And even if you think that your presentation is on somewhat of a boring topic, like usually in corporate worlds it is, you can still try to do this. However, you really have to be mindful of the environment and the context you use this tip in. So for example, in a very rigid environment, a funny joke might not really be the best at the beginning. Or during a weekly status report, you might not want to do this because this might sound a bit overly theatrical in such settings. So you really need to balance this based on your audience, based on the context and the topic as well. But if you can evoke a strong emotion at the very beginning and hook your audience's attention, that will really help you with feeling less nervous as well. If you start your presentation out strong, I guarantee you it will feel much better for you over the course of the presentation and less like you just fumbled into the presentation and trying to keep it going. And with that said, you also have to have a strong ending. You need to end your presentation with a purpose. With the information overload that we all have, especially in the corporate world nowadays, it is very important that you summarize your main points and also help your audience get away from the presentation with a couple of key points in mind. This will give your audience a sense of completeness, and if you can, tie this strong ending back to the beginning as well. This will leave everyone with a sense of completeness and that your presentation is coming to an end without feeling like you just ended it because you ran out of things to say or ran out of time. Of course, it will also help you, not in the current presentation because that's already over by that point, but for the next ones, because thinking back, you will feel that it was a complete experience where you had control over the beginning and the end, and that can help you calm your nerves for your next presentation because you remember it as a slightly better experience than otherwise. Having said that, the tip number 3 is prioritizing structure and clarity. Great presentations follow a good structure and have very clear points for the audience to walk away with. This is even more important in the corporate world where there are so many things flying around, so many pieces of information. So the things that are the most clear will often be the things that stick in people's minds. So if you want your points to be remembered, make sure to pick 2 to 3 key points that you really highlight and optimize for the clarity of these. You also need to use your visuals wisely to support these. So use charts, data, graphs, images. But please, please, please do not overcrowd your slides. I know this is a point that so many people have said before, and I know you've heard it a million times already. However, I know people still fall into this trap. So stick to one idea per slide. And I know this is very difficult, especially in technical areas. As an engineer myself, I completely get the temptation of trying to put on more information, more pieces of data, some supplemental stuff, just to have a complete picture. However, we really need to think about people who do not have that technical background or have less of the expertise you have to really see the big picture. So you need to be able to distill your points down into the most important bits and focus on clarity. So again, If you focus on clarity and structure, I guarantee you that will be one of the most important pillar points in preparing for your presentation. After having thought about structure and clarity, you need to practice with purpose. Practice is key, but it's not just about repetition, it's about being mindful of how you practice. You need to think about your tone, your pacing, how you deliver things, your gestures, body language, all of that. So back when I was a teenager, when I was preparing for the BBC competition, what I would do is I would actually write my speeches down word for word and then try to remember that. I would first just try to remember the main point and then some paragraphs, sentences, and down to the word. So after a while, once I got it down and I remembered all of the words, then I would stand up in front of a mirror and practice. Then I did not have to think about what I'm saying anymore. I just needed to focus on my body language, my intonation, how I would be saying things, and I would be practicing that over and over again until I was satisfied with it. Now, this took a couple of months, of course, but then afterwards, what I was doing is I started doing it in a more impromptu way, because then I had already practiced the gestures and the body language that I want myself to look like from the outside. But then I can really focus on just knowing the topics that I want to talk about and the key ideas, and not actually know everything word by word, because obviously that takes a lot of time to memorize. And I thought that that was enough. But then I started YouTube. To my surprise, it took so much time for me to just get rid of the ums and ahs and filler words that I was putting in. Then I realized that when I knew the speech word for word, I wasn't using these filler words. But once I was improvising, I put in a lot of these filler words without even realizing it. So the following couple of times, I worked consciously to eliminate the ums and ahs from my speech. So with that said, looking at yourself through the mirror, but also through a video later on, watching it back can really give you amazing feedback. So I really recommend you, if you can, and this is a longer journey, this is not just preparing for a single presentation, you need to record yourself and watch it back, get feedback from other people, and tweak it bit by bit. This will really give you the confidence over time. But don't just practice for the best case scenario. You also need to think about when unexpected things happen. So prepare a bit of a joke when something goes wrong technically on the slide, or you have a typo, or something like that happens. Preparation equals confidence in these contexts. But what if you spent all that time preparing, yet when it comes to the time of the presentation, you're still nervous, you're still shaky, and you're just so anxious you feel like you can't even speak? And that is where tip number 5, preparing your body, is very important. As I said, I used to get so nervous before presentations and public speaking. My voice was shaking, I couldn't talk, I felt like I couldn't breathe, and that somewhat got better over time, but I am still very much nervous before doing any sort of public speaking. So I needed to find some ways to manage the shakiness and anxiety before I went up to speak. So the first thing that I found, that you might have heard somewhere else as well, is to reframe it in your mind. You need to think about this experience as not something that you need to fear, but something that you are excited for. Now, that sounds really good in theory, and I kept repeating that to myself. This is not scary. This is exciting. This is not scary. This is exciting. And my mind seemed to be convinced, but my body really wasn't. I was just as shaky, and I still felt a sense of impending doom or something. So I realized that I needed to convince my body as well. I realized then that when I get excited, I do this little wiggle around and I smile. So I thought the next time when this came around, I should try it. Sure enough, weirdly enough, even though it takes 3 seconds, somehow it convinced my body. I still felt butterflies in my stomach, but it was more of a positive feeling that I was looking forward to this presentation, looking forward to a chance to grow and practice. So you just need to find something that works for you. Check your own bodily cues when you're excited and see if you can mimic that before a presentation. However, what would you do if you still feel shaky? That is usually due to excess adrenaline in your body. So you need to move your body to get rid of that adrenaline. I would normally go on a brisk walk before the presentation, but if I don't have the time, I would just go into the bathroom, do some jumping jacks or push-ups. Getting rid of that excess adrenaline also means that your body will be less shaky, so your voice will be less shaky as well. And these are the 2 main strategies I use to counter the shakiness and the extreme fear that I have. But again, if you do enough presentations, it will get better with time, and you yourself will also get the experience on how to best manage these symptoms of fear, nervousness, shakiness, anxiousness. So with these 5 steps, hopefully now you're fully prepared to give a killer presentation next time. Which tip resonated with you the most? Comment below and let me know. And don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and the notification bell to get notified about new videos on career building, productivity, language learning, expat life, and all those sorts. So I'll see you in the next video. Happy learning! Bye bye!